whether you just want to sketch some of the salient differences, so that you kind of absolutely say, you can say, yes, women, it wasn't great, but it was a lot better in England than it was elsewhere at a certain point. And I guess projecting forward, are the contrasts between the Anglosphere, if you like, and continental Europe, and then as you go further east, India, and then China, are the differences still there, or do you see things changing?
Okay, so that's two questions,
Yeah.
which will probably take us through to lunchtime because they're central to all my work. Now, again, thinking about why this is important to me. Here I was, born on the edge of the British Empire, brought up as a little Englishman, but also with Indian friends. And I come back at the age of 5 to an alien England, of which I don't really understand the patterns and so on. And then I go to English boarding schools. So my life, in a way, has been exploring who I am as an English person. The English, and I should preface it by saying that a lot of what I say is talking about a generation back or 2 generations back.
Yeah.
But the English, you learn your culture, and most people are born in it, and therefore from the first day they are learning it. Those of us who were sent back from the Raj had to we half had it, but we half didn't have it. And therefore, when we went to our schools, our boarding schools, and absorbed into English social structure, you had to learn the rules of the game in a way that an anthropologist does in an alien society. We knew some of the language and customs, but we didn't know a lot of them. And so you have to almost consciously, you have to be a participant observer, but the observation has to be quite keen. Otherwise, you're going to be bullied or say the wrong thing or whatever. So you have to learn what anthropologists call a habitus. Habitus is what anthropologists in the old days used to call customs. What it means is the unspoken rules, the generative structure in linguistics, the things that are so deep that you never formally look at them. But in Bourdieu's work, they generate your behavior. Now, you can't learn them by reading a book. You can't read a book, even though the British government might like you to do so, on how to be British. You can learn, Shakespeare is a great poet and so on, but to be British is to learn a habitus, a way of being. And I had to learn that habitus by more of an effort than many people. And it turned me into an anthropologist and who I am now. And it became the core of my life's work.
Mm.
In what ways am I the same as my young Indian friends, and what ways am I different? And so I learned this. Now, a habitus, this set of invisible rules, um, applies. It's a generative structure, so it applies at a deep level to everything, but then it breaks into all sorts of different aspects. And the various books I've written about the English, the peculiarity of the English, take certain things. One thing you have to learn is humor. I mean, if you were to choose the sort of 10 things, as I had to choose in one of my books, that you write about the English, it's their sense of humor. Many people, my Chinese friends, my other friends, when they come to England, they say, Alan, I know that until I can understand English humor and maybe even joke in the way the English joke, I will not be part of England. How do you do it? Um, if you Ishiguro, in his lovely novel, The Remains of the Day, um, some of the most brilliant descriptions is about how the servant, the manservant, is trying to understand the English sense of humor.
Mm.
He just cannot get it because it's not something that is logical or literal. You learn it by practicing. It's like learning to ride a bicycle. You make jokes and then suddenly they work. Because, and why it's so difficult to do is you need to have a whole lot of cultural symbols, because much of English humor, of course, is based on irony. That's why a lot of my schooling was about irony and satire, and a lot of English literature is about irony and satire. It's saying the opposite of what you mean. Now, to say the opposite of what you mean to someone else means that you've got to know what you are formally saying and then say the opposite. And the other person has got to see that you are saying the opposite of what you mean. So irony requires a considerable literary and cultural skill. And this is why much English irony used to be hated by Americans. Say what you damn like, damn like mean, none of this bullshitting around and saying, because it was too clever. But irony and humor was what I learned at my public schools and in my family. And the whole panoply of English humor. I compared it to Chinese humor, and Chinese humor is entirely different. A lot of it is very slapstick humor and black humor and so on, but they don't have these categories of ironic and satirical humor.